All right, we're ready. What's up, man? How you doing?
I am good, bro. Good to be here.
Good. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming on. So that's what we got. We have Brandon Forbes, number one. What would you say? Number one Christian coaches of coaches.
Yeah, maybe so. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's cool. I've been watching your stuff for a while. I like it. Like your content, like your mission. I guess right off the bat, it's just gonna set the tone for the rest of the episode. But what would you say is your mission? We were just talking seconds before about, business success, social media, and it always appears to, the stuff, the money, people get caught up in that, but you always have to have a higher mission to really drive you further and deeper into
Yeah.
success beyond just the mundane, right?
Yeah, bro. That's a great question. And I think it evolves, right? Like everybody has a vision to some degree in most cases, but that vision's always changing. Like I remember whenever I was like, dude, I want to make 10K a month. And then you make 10K and you're like, I want to make 100. And then it's like, okay, so that's possible. And then the next thing is possible. And it's like money, if I'm honest, was a big driving factor of like getting into business. And then you realize that it doesn't really change that much. Like, yeah, you can have a nicer car, nicer clothes, I guess, a cool watch or something like that. But ultimately, there's got to be more. If not, it tends to make most people quit. So for me, 25, I think the mission is just to be an example to other people of what's possible in every area, right? For me, I remember getting my first mentor. It really just shed light on like, oh my gosh, if that guy can do it, I can do it too. I think in the simplest form, be an example of what's possible to other people. And then also, like, again, we work with everybody, not just Christians, but in
Yeah.
2025, my goal is definitely to grow the kingdom, right? Like last year, I think probably, sowed like $100,000 into like my church, our online Bible study, things like that. But yeah, this year is definitely to give more for sure.
Yeah, of course. So you said something about your mentor. When did you meet your first mentor, and what was the inspiration to work with them?
Yeah, bro. So I had a few key mentors. When I was 18, I was in a small town. Actually, got arrested my senior year for smoking weed at the time. And yeah, went to jail, got kicked off the basketball team. And I was like, dude, my life is over. Met a guy named Tyler. He like loved the Lord and like he believed in me. First mentor I've ever had that like believed in me. And so I went off to like Bible college and like served him and all this. And then I met I guess you could say my next mentor. It was more business focused. And he had just come off of selling his business called Church Base for a couple $1 million. Basically, they built apps for churches, and he's a little bit older than me. And I was like, dude, if this guy can do it, so can I. A few years older, super cool dude, and was like, just brought me under his wing. So I remember when all my friends were out partying, hanging out, or whatever, I was hanging out with this dude as much as possible. Like literally every day, I started to work with him, hang out with him, even though I wasn't making any money doing it. I knew I was gaining wisdom for time that was going to help me in the future just by being with somebody like that.
How old was the guy you're working with?
I think at the time, I think I was like 24. He might have been like 28, 30, something like that.
Yeah, I was telling my buddies, I'm like, you gotta get older friends. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
rare. It's rare that somebody that at your age is gonna actually be able to pull you forward, right? It's more,
Yeah,
I say,
bro.
hey, look at people 20, 30, 40 years ahead. You get
Hmm.
to steal their time in a way, right? And yeah, like what you said, it's like, of course, it's like it's fair to say like the original inspiration was the money, right? It's because it's a basic need. But
Yeah.
once we take care of ourselves and fill our own cup, it's like, then what'd you say? It was like the next step was serving others and expanding that too,
Yeah.
right? It's like shoring up the foundation, and you quickly realize it's a lot of people say it's like, yeah, once you hit the first 10K a month, and you realize like, the rest of it's not giving me more
Yeah.
fulfillment. It's like the next level of fulfillment is like serving others, right? Yeah.
100%.
So now, were you when you got kind of in trouble and you shifted gears, when you said you were 18, were you like religious or spiritual at that point, or was that a big turning point?
Yeah, so I grew up in church like my whole life. Like my parents got divorced early on. My mom, I mean, dude, I had the best mom. Like in high school, everybody wanted to hang out with us. Both like mom and stepdad, really good jobs. And essentially what happened was my stepdad like jacked his knee up really bad, needed surgery, had this crazy surgery done, got infected, and like, dude, his leg was like super jacked up. So they prescribed him like hydrocodone, like all these other like pills, right? And then he got hooked on pills. And then somehow my mom started taking them. And dude, a great mom, kind of led into like them doing drugs, going in and out of jail, even getting so bad they were like on meth. So I was like 13, bro, like 14. I was like, dude, I'm never gonna do that crap. Moved in with my grandparents. Like I was at church this whole time, very like religious, if you will, like do's and don'ts. I remember getting tattoos, and I was on the worship band, and then like they were mad at me. So it's just stuff like that. And then yeah, I fast forward to like I ended up started to smoke, starting to drink, just like typical high schooler stuff, partying, and I realized this is not who I want to be when literally was in jail. Like
Yeah.
I was playing drums at church, smoking weed, partying, and here I am in jail. And it's like, dude, this sucks. Like everybody is going to know that I'm not who I claim to be, if you will. And yeah, dude, after that, I was just like, man, all this religion stuff has been me pretending and just going to a church. I don't even really know God.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, I met that mentor and had an encounter with the Lord, like the Holy Spirit. I feel like for the first time. And like I knew
It's
without a doubt
like
God was
direct.
real in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's funny. It's like that's usually when it happens, right? You said, well, there's two things I kind of want to get into there because yeah, I see. I was raised in the Catholic Church, Catholic school, Bible studies, altar server, all that, right? Read the Bible front to back multiple times, and that's all great. But it's not until you have a direct connection, right? So it's more of taking it beyond just the mind to experience and putting those things into action because it's cool to go and learn and feel good. The same thing with coaching and masterminds. The same thing as well. It's like it's good to be in the energy and feel that, and you're all hyped up for a day or a week, whatever it is. But if you want that to actually last and grow, you need to have that take the action, have the direct experience to follow up. Otherwise, it's kind of like
100%.
it's like knowing your neighbor but never spending actual time with your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, another point you said, the drugs. I get people that I work with all the time. It's we don't set out to fall into these traps. It kind of just happens little by little, right? It's like
Mm.
it's very harmless. I was talking to a guy back in August actually, and he's good now, but he was struggling with drug use, and that kind of reminded me of the story because I asked him like, well, how does somebody get into like meth and heroin? And he goes, I had an injury. It started, I
Mm.
think he had his hand
Yeah.
was injured and he started taking pills just for whatever's prescribed. And then he's like, I just felt crappy off of them. So I kept taking them. And then he's like, once I stopped taking them, I felt really sick. So I was hooked and, it just kept progressing, unfortunately. So yeah, it's usually, that stuff really kind of sneaks up on us and it can really
Yeah.
pull some really good people off track.
Yeah, dude. I used to like judge people and like, how could you ever do this? How could you, and it's like, life is hard. So I
Yeah.
get it. And we all have desires. And sometimes people aren't disciplined enough to say no. It's like once you start one thing, it kind of turns into another and another and another and another. And before you know it, you're like, gosh, how did I end up here? Right. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah.
even like weed and stuff like that too. It's like it's just something. It's interesting. I get a lot of people now that were like avid weed smokers, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, like I just feel sluggish. I feel really slowed down. I'm like, yeah, it's another thing. It's like it's a very people use things like that to relax. They use alcohol, whatever it is, to relax, and then it kind of creeps up on you. And then you look down 5 years
Yeah.
later, and you're like, well, where am I? I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm sluggish. You know. And now
Yeah.
it's cool to see what's happening. Just overall, a lot of people are becoming more religious and spiritual. A lot of people are not drinking anymore, not smoking, vaping, whatever it is, or putting the vices away.
Yeah.
No, do you have any? Everyone's always dealing with something, right? So what are some pointers or what has worked for you to overcome different vices that you might have had?
Yeah. I think the big thing in overcoming devices or vices, not devices,
Yeah,
it is to not be divisive, actually. So what I mean by that is like so many people like they say they want to change, and they like say it up here, but they believe that they can't change.
Yeah.
And the Bible even talks about this, that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And that's scientifically proven, like NLP, like all this other stuff, mindset, where basically you are who you think you are and believe you are, and you'll never like rise above it. People are literally torn apart. They're like want to change, but they believe they can't. And it's like they want to be someone who conquers and someone who has success, but they believe they're a failure. And then it's like, if you believe you're a failure, I mean, you might as well just drink because
Hmm.
you suck anyway. Like you
Yeah, it
might as well just
matches
stay
that.
addicted. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like they're torn into two different people. And I think the real key for me was understanding, if you will, who God says I am. And I know for other people, it could be like, I mean, maybe you don't believe and it's fine. It's like find something that's going to motivate you to be a good person. Although my belief is that there are no good people. Like we're all screwed up. That's why we needed a savior in the first place.
Yeah.
You can be, you know, great at doing certain things, but yeah, I think two is replacing. So it's like people are like, dude, I'm gonna quit drinking, and then
Then
it's
what?
like, then what? So it's like
Yeah.
quit drinking and add in a pro, like something that's positive, like going to the gym, right?
I say that
So
all.
for me, that's what I did.
Yeah, I say that all the time. It's like, imagine if we have, just call it 12 waking hours, right? And you do the most amazing thing for the 10 hours, but then there's 2 hours left over. What can go in there, right? If it's only good or bad that can go in there, and you're like, yeah, I did 10 amazing hours, but in these 2 hours I'm just gonna screw off. That's, to your point. It's like you have to replace it with something else.
Yeah,
That's really why a mission is important, that goes, having a connection to God and a mission to keep driving yourself, is because when you have a higher mission, then everything gets weighed against that, right? It's like, well, should I, sit at a bar with some friends that aren't really growing, or should I do this drug, or whatever it is, or hey, maybe I need to learn something, read, connect with somebody, deepen some experience just beyond, I guess, just pure self entertainment that doesn't really lead you anywhere. Yeah, it's cool. I'm assuming you get this question too. Guys will come to you when they want to grow their business. Or one of their concerns is like, well, how do we make more money? And it's like money's never. Well, like, what's your response to that?
like I think actually making money is inherently a good thing,
Oh yeah, yeah,
right? However, I think it can become an idol to people. So like if making money means that you don't take care of your fitness anymore, or it's jeopardizing your relationships, or you have a terrible product but you're trying to scale it even though nobody gets results, it's like, but I think what happens, I guess what makes me frustrated is whenever people say like I want to make more money, what they're saying is I want to make more money without doing more work. And
yeah,
it's like people look like, oh, Brandon, you did 200K last month, but they don't see for 5 freaking years, 6, 7 years really, I was trying all these different things. I had a pool cleaning company, guitar pedal board company, I had a marketing agency, all these different things, a clothing line that failed, like boom, 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 all these different things that didn't work. So yeah, now they see where I'm at. They're like, oh, I want to do that too. So it's like, as long as the work ethic is there and they understand that it's going to take time, struggle, skill, I mean, you can shortcut all of that just by being coachable. But
yeah.
yeah,
There's so many different things we can kind of spin off to it.
yeah,
Yeah, because yeah, I was doing an episode maybe a month ago, and this guy was a IFBB pro and all these things, and really the focus of that conversation was people want they want results without actually earning it, right? They don't want to, like you just said, it's like, hey, I didn't just pop up overnight and do this. This is like years and years and years of pushing through and building and trying new things, right? And yeah, it's a way to measure your energy, right? It's a way to measure the energy you already invested and what you get back now. You said, what was the one thing you said? It was great. I really wanted to highlight that. We see in the coaching space all the time. It's bad products, lack of integrity that doesn't really serve the clients. That's another really important piece, right? It's like the product really does matter. It's not about just being popular and famous and being. It's easy to make the money. The hard part is actually serving the client, actually getting them those results, right?
yeah,
And that really separates the coaching space of kind of the fakers and the actual guys that are really doing it.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's like I always use a comparison. It's like nothing is any different. It's like if you want to grow your business, the same thing as working out in the gym. It's like you first start there, you're kind of like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. You feel weak, but it's like you have to show up consistently every single day and get stronger and stronger. It's the same thing with the spiritual path.
Yeah.
Is there is no there are no blockages in life. It's just how strong are you and how strong do you want to be? The challenges that we thought were
Yeah.
crazy big 5, 10 years ago are just like, "Oh, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
that's a
Dude,
you
and I
just blow
think like
by.
what's interesting about the gym is like let's say you're someone who doesn't go to the gym right now. Like first 2 3 times, first 2 3 weeks, really, you're going to feel weak, right? A month comes in, 2 3 4 months, you're like, "Dude, I'm getting stronger." But an interesting thing is like even if you've been lifting for a year, if you take 2 months off and then you get back in the gym, you still feel weak. You're like, dude, I don't feel like what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's like kind of speaks to even, my goal in 2025 also is just to be continually growing. Because the same way in the gym, if you stop working out, right, you feel a difference. Also, if you stop growing, you feel a difference, right? So just basically committing to a path of continual growth, right, in every area. And yeah,
Yeah, it's just I think to take the spiritual take on that, right? It's like what is
yeah,
God? God's constantly growing and expanding, right? It's
yeah,
eternal. And man is created in the image of God. So it's like what should the best thing to do is like follow God's plan. It's like, okay, he's growing, we have to grow too. And that's what, when we feel stuck, when we feel anxious, depressed, whatever, that's what it is. It's like it's nature pushing on us to grow. And the only
yeah,
option really is it's like you can grow or you can progress. Stagnation is not possible. Everything's always moving, you know. Um, but yeah, I think that's always the drive of like some people want to pump the brakes. It's like no, I don't want to, I don't want to grow. And unfortunately, that kind of that's not really in their favor because it just keeps piling up, piling up. It's not until you make that, it's like everyone has that turning point in their life. Maybe that was you after 18 when you met your mentor, but it was like, hey, this is the point where enough is enough. I'm going to keep growing. And
yeah,
like you said about
100%.
the consistency thing, that was good too. It's because you can go to you can show up in your religious practice, you can show up in business, you can show up in the gym, but like you can do great for say 10 years, but as soon as you take off, then you start regressing again. So it's like that's why every single day you have to have some type of practice to ground yourself to keep that growth going.
Yeah, 100%.
No, when do you feel like you really hit your stride? Is it once the plan was like really crystal clear? I mean, because that takes time to shape that, but it's almost like we're wandering in the dark until we find that plan and we refine it, and that's when, we're able to really launch. When was that for
Yeah,
you?
bro. Dude, so there's this kind of concept I've been leaning into. As a Christian, at least for me, I don't think we're supposed to ever have the full plan, right? Because if you have the full
Yeah, of course.
plan, like you don't have faith. So in 2024, in January, about the same time last year, like, dude, we had a record month, first 200K month. And then out of nowhere, I got hit with like all this anxiety, like
Of
weird.
course.
Like, I don't know what happened.
Makes sense.
And then I was like feeling like I'm not happy and like burned out. I've never even felt that way before. And I was like, what is going on? And that lasted for like 2 to 3 months. Like I talked about it in some of my content too. And dude, it was because I was trying to control everything. It's like, and it made me realize that I can't. Like, I'm not supposed to know all the details. I'm just supposed to be faithful with where I'm at right now, where the Lord has called me. And I know when I was younger, like I still have vision and like belief for crazy big things and like want to conquer everything like we touch and like be insanely, wealthy, generous, all these other things.
It's fair enough.
Um, there's also wisdom and just like taking your time. Like all of our dreams don't have to happen in 2025. Like they
I
don't
don't
have
know.
to happen tomorrow. Like, bro, we're
That
so
was
young.
that was a
We've
huge
got
lesson for
time.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like always balls to the wall, just intense, intense, intense. And like, one of my teachers one day, we were talking about that. There's a law in hermetics, law of polarity in hermetics. It's like the person who is always pushing so hard, they come around, all of a sudden they're weak. It's like what's on the opposite pole of strength and weakness. The guy in the
Mm,
gym that can't pull back and take a break and recover, eventually that guy gets hurt, and that strong guy is now a weak guy. So having that flow is extremely important. But yeah, I think the not feeling the need to know everything now goes back to the progression, right? Because there's never a point where you can say, hey, this plan is absolutely perfect. Because if it was, you'd be like, well, I did it. Now what? It's like, and then it couldn't get better, right? So it's like, that's not something of God never has an end to it. It's always, it's not that, back to what you said, it's like, people aren't perfect, but it's like the act of perfecting and continuously that. And how can I deepen this experience, this relationship, this service, whatever it
yeah,
is. Yeah, it's cool.
100%, dude.
And
Totally agree.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, especially guys, younger entrepreneurs, they really get stuck on like, I want it all now. And it's like, why? It's like there's so much experience and wisdom to learn when you slow
Yeah.
down a little bit. There's nothing wrong with having it all. It's like, yeah, you should reach your greatest capacity if you can. Like that's what you should strive for. But we don't need everything right in this second. That can get
Yeah, bro. Like, it's just, I mean, I learned this earlier on, and I don't think having things is bad. Like, I got my first Rolex. It was cool for like a month, and then I realized, dude, I bought like a $4,000 Rolex. Like, it's not very cool anymore, right? And then I like got a different one. And then I got a different one, and now I have a different one. And it's like those things are never going to satisfy you. It's cool to have, and like I've been able to give two away. So to me, that's actually cooler as saying like I gave two Rolexes away, right? Versus
yeah,
like, oh, I've got five. It's like, okay, who cares?
yeah, like now what?
So yeah, bro, I think, like you said at the beginning, at first it starts off as money, and then it turns into how to serve people, and ultimately like how to care about people, how to change their life, how to see them change their family's life. That's more addicting than anything.
Oh yeah, you feel so much more fulfilled. It's like that's what you said, kind of the Rolex. It's like, oh, it's cool for a week or whatever. It's new, it's shiny, and then eventually it's like, whatever. It's like then giving that Rolex away or giving your wisdom away when you're coaching somebody and you see their growth as well too,
Yeah,
continuing that cycle. That's amazing. I think it's
100%.
it's the same thing. Like I tell everybody, it's like you have money and physical goods, whether it's cars, watches, whatever it is, and money. It's like what do you put in between yourself and God? And it's a common trap to put those things, to prioritize the items and the money above your own well-being and above your connection
Hmm.
with God, right?
Yeah,
And that's what cuts a lot of people off. And they're like, why am I not growing? It's like because that stuff doesn't fill you up. The only thing that's going to fill you up is energy and love from God, and understanding
yeah,
how to receive that, be worthy of that, to receive it, how to share that with other people. We have to
yeah.
always be in flow with that, right?
Hmm.
Where when you're doing your coaching, what are some common sticking points for your people?
Yeah, I mean, like two big things is like mindset and then investing in themselves, like and paid ads. Like I love paid ads because it just magnifies who you are and what your business is. So if you have a bad offer, ads aren't going to help. Bad marketing, ads aren't going to help. Like bad sales process, ads aren't going to help. But if you have a good offer that actually helps people and you're decent at sales, like ads are great, right? So that's a big piece. But a lot of times it's not the ads that hold people back, it's their mindset and how they're showing up in the world. They don't believe that ads will work. So then it's like they don't try. They don't believe that coaching works. So then they don't join the program. They don't believe that once they're in, they don't believe that anyone would pay them high ticket. They don't believe that they could even achieve any of the stuff that they want. So it's like, again, that double mindedness, right? It's like they join a program because they want to achieve the thing. And then they're in the program and then they feel like they can't achieve the thing because they internally view themselves
Yeah,
as a failure.
yeah, they don't
So
believe
it's
it.
like identity is huge.
I
And
think
for
that's
me,
90%
yeah,
of
I
it,
think
right?
it's the biggest thing. And
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, for me, like I have a son, his name's Jedediah, right? Like, no matter what happens the rest of his life, he cannot change the fact that Brandon Forbes is his father, whether he likes me or not. So he knows his identity, at least 50% or so came from me. And us, like we have earthly parents, but I believe the best way to find our identity is the one who created us, right? So I think getting your identity from the Lord is really the first step. And whenever you have that confidence, it's unshakable, because I don't care if everyone hates me, if no one, looks up to me, whatever. It's like, as long as like me and God are good, then everything's fine. Right. So it really sets you free from what I think is the key, indicator of not knowing your identity, which is the fear of man. What are people going to think about my content? What are people going to think about my ads? What are people going to feel like when they're on the sales call with me? What if they don't get results? Like, what if other people? And it's like, dude, if you can get rid of that, see who you truly are, like everything else seems to click.
Well, that's where the strength comes in, right? It's like that's our whole process of being here is to learn and create and grow and self-actualize, right? So everything
Mhm.
it's, somebody has, especially if somebody has a big mission, they look at it like, oh, I don't know if I can ever be that guy because it's little. They start out as little them, and that's how everybody starts out, right?
Yeah,
And it's that process, and that's why we have mentors and guides and teachers to step in and like, hey, I've already done it. Like this is the path, and it can make it easier, and you can accelerate it. Um, yeah, I always tell everybody it's like business is just regular business is boring. Like business is business. It's actually pretty easy. It's only a
yeah,
few key pieces. It's like you have these four things in line. It's cool. That's like 10% of it. It's like,
yeah,
but it's all self actualization, like self worth, and working on the individual and shifting them. Because like
100%.
I've had so many people I've worked with in the past, and if they don't see themselves capable of that thing, they will scratch and claw and like put the brakes on and hold themselves back and like turn it against you and be like, no, this is they'll want
Dude,
to tell you
this is
it's not.
this yeah, it's like this is how it works. You could call it the devil, negative voices, whatever. The whole lie is that you can't have it. You can't have it. You can't have it. You can't have it. You can't do 10K a month. You can't do 100. And then when you get it, then it switches to you're not worthy of keeping it. You're going to lose it. It's going to burn down. It's going to break. You're a failure. So it's like overcoming that is the key.
Do you think when you said you hit your 200K month, that was last year, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Anytime I've had a kind of breakthrough, high level success, it's like it's what you just said. It's like we get to that higher point, and then kind of the voices come in saying, "No, that wasn't. That was temporary. You're not good enough. Whatever." It's like I feel like that's where if we don't understand that it's sort of call it whatever, ego, devil, whatever. It's like trying to claw us back and say, oh yeah, that was a fluke. That's yeah, that's not really you. We've probably both seen people have a lot of success, and then overnight, just as fast as they made it, they destroy it. you know
Yeah.
so it's really, this is all
100%.
that. It's funny how this all weaves in, but that's another thing. It's important to be consistent and make go step by step, because anytime I've ever seen somebody skyrocket, they always fall down just as fast. And
Yeah.
but the guys that are have true businesses that really serve people in our integrity, they have really strong foundation in the building blocks.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So what about with your having your son and wife? How does that change your life? Because that's another thing I try to tell guys all the time. It's like if you want more success in life, like you need more responsibility, you need more commitment, and
Yeah.
there's you can do that in business, but it's like in life, those are different initiations. Like becoming a husband, becoming a father gives you it just stretches you. So it's night and day difference when that happens.
Yeah. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have a daughter.
Nice. Yeah. I think you can relate. I think ultimately it just adds an unspoken level of responsibility that you it's almost subconscious. To me it was, because we were like stuck at like 20, 30K a month. Found out I was having a son, and then 2 months later hit 100K a month. Not even, I was just like, I'm gonna set him up and try to, like, in every area. Like, it forced me to start going to the gym, like all these different areas. I just noticed, like, dang, like I gotta level up, right?
Yeah, well, that's literally what it is. Like
Yeah.
a initiation is like a beginning of a next step, right? And it's this,
Yeah.
it's like you don't know that until you actually experience it. It's like you don't know, like once you have the wedding, or once your son is actually here and born, it's just like it's a whole different reality,
Yeah.
and it just,
100%.
I always tell people it's like single you is like here. It's like when we have the phases of growth, it's like we're here. Now we can flow so much more energy and drive into really what we want to create.
Yep, I agree.
You, you know, it kind of puts like, I never wanted to, you know, for my daughter, that drove so much growth and progression just because I wanted to figure out things for her. It was more than just like me. It was like, oh, I don't want her ever coming to me and be like, well, how do I do this? I mean, like, oh, I don't know. I can't help you. You know, that'd be a really crappy feeling, you know?
Yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, I tell guys, especially, I work with a lot of guys, say like 25 to 35 years old. And when they're saying like, well, I need more of this, more of that. I'm like, well, how much responsibility do you have? Do you have, you know, a good relationship? Do you have your parent, whatever it is, and how many people you actually serving? And then you can almost directly tie those two things to the amount that they're actually creating, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy, bro. And I think too, like it just gives you like somebody to. I don't know if you've. Let me say it this way. I don't know if you've noticed this, but like Jed will do stuff, and then it'll remind me of me as a kid, or just like I'll just see myself in him, and it's like thinking of all the mistakes I made, and it's like, man, I want to really like help mold him and mentor him and shape him so he doesn't have to do the same stuff I did, and so he can be set up to have like the best life possible. And I just think thinking in that frame automatically sets you up to get the attention off of us onto other things. And whenever you operate in that place, seems to ripple effect into work, content. And it's like, man, like we're just here to be a blessing to other people. Like one thing I did was I created this IG growth funnel video like a year and a half ago, something like that. And at the time, like that was my whole method, right? It was like running follower ads. Like that, I came up with it and I was like, dude, I want to like not tell anyone about this thing. And then I was like, you know what? All these people are copying it anyways. I'm just gonna boom post it and just show people what we're doing. And then like business blew up because I just like was like I just want to help as many people as possible for free.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. It's like what the more you give, the more you get. You know, it's if you
yeah,
have, that's what flow is. Imagine it's like God gives those to the people who are more responsible, right? So if it's like, okay, here, I'm going to bless you, and I trust that you're going to share this and multiply it, how much more are you going to get? You know, we're not going to get like, you know, we're not going to give something to, say, an employee for something, you know, we're not going to pay an employee more because they're going to get being irresponsible, not helping the rest of the team. It's like the person who steps up, takes responsibility, they're going to receive more. It's the same thing of life, same thing spiritually. Uh, what do you think? You know, I hear a lot of guys that say, "No, bro, you know, I'm never going to get married." You know, they think it's like some, you know, some scam, some like they're going to be stuck in some government contract. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's unfortunate because there's, you know, do whatever you want with the government side, but the spiritual side, I think a lot of people are missing what that truly is.
yeah. I mean, dude, marriage isn't what people think it is in most cases. Like, it's not all we see on TV. You know, it's hard. It's definitely very good, but you know, it's like any other relationship, right? But even more intimate. So it definitely takes work. Like what you put in is what you get out. And dude, Sarah and I's marriage, like there was a point where we thought we were going to get divorced. Like I was drinking and all this stuff, like very bad place, you know, and I talk about it a lot in my content too. When we first got married, and it was like, it's not easy, right? But what you put in is what you get out. Uh, but dude, the Bible even talks about, like, it says, he who finds a wife finds favor uh, with the Lord. So there's
What
a
do you think about
spiritual
that?
there's a spiritual reward to getting married for sure.
Yeah.
Like naturally, you know it. Like if somebody's married, like I don't know why, but there's just like a trust that happens to some degree of like, okay, maybe this guy is a decent person. Not saying people who aren't married are bad, but also you become one. And the Bible says one can put 1,000, but two can put 10,000. And the Bible talks all about agreement, right? Whenever two or three are gathered and agree on something, it'll be established. In the multitude of counselors, there's wisdom. So it's like all throughout the Bible, this agreement, right, being a pillar. And I think whenever you're married, you can come into agreement with each other and believe for certain things. Like, hey, we're believing to build the business. It's like if you have a helper, it just takes things to the next level for sure. Right now, marrying the wrong person could be horrible. So I
Yeah, of
think it's
course.
like definitely something you should be careful with. But yeah,
Yeah. So I think where people get stuck is they don't actually understand the purpose of marriage beyond just being with each other, right? I think it's because they don't have a higher mission in life, and they don't look at marriage as a way to support that. You know what I mean? It says, going back to responsibility, and it's like God gives to those who are more responsible. It's like, well, what's happening when you're married? Marriage is a union with, the husband, wife, and God. What
Yeah.
does that couple create? They can create children that just, perpetuate the growth of the world and expand. Right. So it's like the highest thing we can do is to have kids, continue that growth. Hopefully good kids, hopefully with good parents.
Yeah, and dude, I think through I was just using ChatGPT, asking a question about this. Yeah, like marriage is a biblical thing that basically the government turned into a contract. But originally, what marriage was designed to do is marriage happens whenever people come into agreement, covenant, but it's a covenant, and whenever you sleep together, you become one, right? So then
Right.
it's a covenant between the man, the woman, and God. So it's instead of it just being two people, that's why there's favor, because it talks about there being a three stranded cord that's not easily to break. But, that's marriage. Marriage isn't, getting a wedding. Marriage isn't a wedding and a ring, I guess is my point. So a lot of people are married, but it's not a biblical marriage. It's not a covenant. It's just, legally you've lived together for whatever years, 7 years or whatever, and then
Yeah, it checks a box.
check the box. Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
So,
I tell people all the time, because if you don't understand the responsibility of marriage, that's why you see people get married. It might have been great while they were dating, 'cause it's fun and it's exciting. And then they get married. It's like it's sort of like getting promoted in a job. When you go to the next level, you have more responsibility and more to do. It's like marriage should drive you to be able to create more, and to create more for the betterment of the world. And I feel like what happens is when people don't honor that, they it's almost like they have more pressure on themselves now, and then it collapses, and then well, the fights happen and everything, and then they quickly, within say 2 years, all of a sudden they're
yeah,
divorced. So it's
100%.
like, I think that's really why it is important to take, if you're religious, spiritual, whatever you believe, is to take those responsibilities and commitments serious, and actually like work on those and fulfill those things, right? Because like you said, it's like it's not going to be easy. No relationship is necessarily easy, but it's like we get our best selves out of the relationships. And
Yeah.
it's like we're not going to get the best out of ourselves if we're doing business by ourselves. We're not going to get the
Yeah.
best out of ourselves when we're a single guy just running around town, like, you know,
Yeah.
doing nothing. It's like, I think
Yeah.
that's a key piece, is like that commitment. And it's like, even if it's scary, it's like without the commitment, we don't have the fruits. And
Yeah.
people are they're trying to get results without the commitment. It's like, it just doesn't. You can
Yeah.
people can fight and challenge that as much as they want, and they'll just drive themselves nuts until they kind of say, until they're ready, actually ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So what are the things that fill you up now? I know we talked about business, marriage, your son, but
Dude, I love
where
to golf now. Golf, yeah, I like golfing. Uh, yeah, going to the gym, just spending time with Jed. Pretty simple guy, actually. Yeah.
yeah, I think life is pretty simple. It's like, it's simple, but it's not. But yeah, I'm not a golf guy, but maybe I always tell people to never say never, because things I didn't want to do
Dude,
5 years ago.
I was like, I hate golf. I'll never play. And then I got into it. And I'm like, dude, I love golf.
Like his
It's
podcast,
awesome.
I made a statement. I remember 2 years ago. I said, I'm never doing. I posted on my story. I said, never doing a podcast. It's silly, because it's a bunch of people just talking. It's like talking, and they're not actually. Most of those people aren't actually doing the thing to like help
Yeah.
people. Well, I'll never do it. And then look where I'm at now. It's like I'm doing it. So
Yeah. How long have you
yeah,
been doing the podcast?
a few months now. It was, I was always sort of behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
there's a big difference. I wasn't valuing social media as much as I should have been. Uh, you know, there's a big difference in working with somebody purely just online and in person, and I prefer
Yeah.
just sticking in person. And that's the purpose of my social media. It's not really so I can be this massive like online coach, but so I can get people in, because there's
Mhm.
talking about relationships, right? It's like our best relationships are the ones we consistently see in person. We're in their energy, we're weaving. You know, it's like it goes way deeper. And then but similar to like, with your coaching and stuff, it's like if we're only doing in person, where it's very limited in our reach, and it's like we have way more potential. So it's like if we really do want to serve more people, we have to be out there. We have to be on social media in
Yeah.
today's world to really, really affect change. And so
100%.
I like and you do the same thing, you work in person and masterminds and sort of the hybrid. I think the hybrid way is the best way to do it. And it's cool. It's like some people, they'll see your stuff, but they're not ready, right? For whatever reason. So social media is an amazing tool to
Yeah.
uh,
It's a
get
great tool.
yeah, get people, networking, get people familiar with you, give them value. Like you said, you released one of those frameworks for free. And it's like,
Yeah.
I want to put as much out there to give value so people can, maybe they're stuck in stage one or two, whatever, and they hear something I said and they, you know, hopefully people actually put into action. I'm hoping people don't just
Yeah.
listen and say, oh, yeah, wow, like marriage, that sounds cool. Like, yeah, maybe one day. It's like, no, I really want something to land with
Yeah.
somebody and start planting those seeds. And then hopefully they show up on a call with me or in person and, I'm able to serve them. I think, yeah,
100%.
yeah. So that's where eventually I had to get over my own crap and just jumping into it.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, that's cool. What if you had to give some clear principles, if you're looking back on the last, say, 5 years, are there any principles you can lay out that are, somebody has to have that can really drive them forward?
Hmm. Clear principles. I would just say your core values. Like, figure out who you are. Like, an easy framework. Most people listening won't do this, but maybe one person will. Get a
Hopefully.
whiteboard on the left side, write down the 5 negative things about you, and just be honest. Like, inconsistent, unreliable, unfaithful, selfish. Boom. On the right side of the board, write down words that are opposite to those words, right? Faithful, generous, activator. Take those 5 words on the right and turn it into a paragraph. For instance, it could sound like this: I am Brandon Forbes. I am a kingdom visionary. That's one of the values because I felt like I didn't have vision. An activator in the earth, right? I felt like I was passive. So I wrote down activator, right? So a kingdom visionary, an activator in the earth who is faithful, right? And generous on every occasion. I lead with excellence and enthusiasm. Boom. So it's like excellence, enthusiasm, generosity, vision, right? Faithfulness. So those were like areas where I felt weak. And then speak that over yourself and find, things in life that confirm it and believe it to be true. And then you start to step into it.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's like you have to get honest of where, just to be, frank, it's like you got to know where you suck and just be honest with
Yeah.
someone. Be like, hey, I suck at this. And it's like, same thing with the business. It's like, it's funny. It's like when I started doing better in business is when I started doing business like God, right? God has a hierarchy of angels that he works with, right? You can look at God as the CEO, and the archangels is kind of his C-suites and
Yeah.
like different admin and leadership too. It's like, and they're taking on different roles and responsibilities. It's like, that's the
Mm,
same thing with business too. If you look, there's a hermetic principle, as above, so below. It's like, and that's why we can look at God and study how God does things and mimic that in our own way and create in the same way, right? It's like we're kind of the microcosm of God, right? And
mm.
so it's like getting really honest. Like if you suck at something, just say, "Hey, I suck," and that's fine. And then either outsource it or find somebody who can help you get better. It's
Yep.
kind of
100%.
like if I start playing golf, I'm just like, this is going into the woods.
You're going to have to outsource it or keep playing until you get better.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I played golf, I was a little kid and I just hated it. So I just snapped the golf club and walked away. I mean, I can go to Topgolf and bomb some drives, but those
Heck
are
yeah.
ne- those are never going to be straight. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty funny. Yeah, if there's anything else now, you know, that's why. Like I said, it's like when you suck, it's like that's the number one reason to find a coach. Is
Yeah.
because or find a coach, find a guide, find a teacher, somebody who can lead you. And we get it. It's like we've been in that, we've sucked all the way, and it's like we continue to do that day by day. It's like, who
Mm,
are your there's never a point where you can get too good, sort of what we were saying before. And I'm sure, just like me, it's like you probably still have mentors and people that you go to that
yeah,
bring you forward as well. I had a
totally.
I've been working out now for, say, 15 years, and I had a bodybuilding coach. We've had a relationship for the last 10 years, and we were just working out last Monday actually.
Mm,
Uh, he, if when we're talking about fitness, then he's my mentor, and he's talking about his mentors as well. And we've been working out off and on for 10 years, and every single time we work out, there's still improvements. He's never gotten to a place where he's like, yeah, it's like we're just going to do the same things. It's like we're always experimenting and trying out different things and just growing in different ways. So yeah, it's the same with anything too. It's really cool to see, um, having it's really cool to see it the same way I'm always growing and adjusting, helping my people. It's like my mentors, they're steps ahead of
yeah,
me as well, right? It would be kind of unfortunate if one day one of your mentors is like, well, that's all I have for you. We're stuck.
yeah, yeah,
It's gonna,
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
always be growing.
yeah. You have to. So it's like there's no comfort in stagnation, right? It's like that's when all this stuff kind of piles up. So. But yeah, we covered a lot of cool stuff. So hopefully somebody listens is they're ready to reach out to us and get started. Yeah, if you want to drop anything, any offers, any social media what you're working on now, let some people know.
Yeah, dude. I think like if you liked anything I said, just give me a follow on Instagram at I am Brandon Forbes, or you can check my YouTube channel out. It's just Brandon Forbes. But yeah, I hope this blessed anyone listening. And yeah, great podcast, bro. Thanks again for inviting me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. Boom.